So, amidst the NBA season starting and amidst all the freakazoid young talent that's coming into the league or is already in the league coming into year 2, year 3, whatever, I wanted to give you guys a short list of some young players that I would advise you not to forget about because they're going to be really good. I'm going to try and stay away from any player that is being talked about, even any player that I'm hearing being talked about as underrated, and people are starting to say oh, everyone's forgetting about this player, everyone's forgetting about this player. For example, Paolo, right, is a guy that, I've been hearing a lot of people pushing everyone forgot about this guy. Oh, he's a number one pick and he's the best player to never be talked about, whatever. But he's starting to get that hype back from the media and from fans. Even sticking with the Magic, like a player like Franz Wagner, I hear people calling him the most underrated player in the league, which might be true, but if you say that too many times, then he's not underrated anymore. But the first player on this list that you cannot forget about, this is do not forget about this player, is Cade Cunningham going into year 3. Last year's injury put him very far under the radar since he only played 12 or 14 games or something like that last year. And then, of course, the slow start to his rookie year made people think, maybe he's not going to be as good as, people thought. But at the end of his rookie year, he was looking like he was on his way to a breakout year in the next couple of years. And I watched him play for the select team this year. He was the guy on that team, and he looked like everything that we expected Cade to look like coming out of the draft. There's just no holes in the guy's game. He's just a bucket. He's got great IQ. He can shoot the ball well, and you can tell that everything's coming together and that he's just developing everything very well. I think Detroit still has another good year at least in their rebuild, but I would expect Cade Cunningham to make that leap this year, assuming that he stays healthy. And if not this year, then next year for sure, or in the second half of this season. But do not forget about Cade Cunningham because he is a hell of a player, and I do believe that he has an all-star appearance, or at least borderline all-star appearance, coming in his future, either this year or the next. It's tough to say because there's so many guys that can be borderline all-stars, but this is why I'm making this video, because if you haven't figured it out, the quality of each draft class is going up year to year. We're getting better and better players, and we already have solidified young stars in the league. So that's why the talent in the league is, I feel like this deserves another video, and I will emphasize the topic in other videos going forward. But the talent in the league is at an all-time high. It's been at an all-time high for the last few years, and it's only going to get better and better, which is why we can't forget about these players. The next player that I urge you not to forget about, and I really, really like his game, and I think he's going to be very, very good, is Rookie of the Year runner-up J-Dub, Jalen Williams of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Offensively, in terms of scoring the ball, no holes in his game. Great handle. He just has that frame. It almost reminds me of James Harden, maybe not directly in his style of play, but the way he just has that big body frame, and he can use that with his step and his craftiness to really get anywhere and finish through contact. And he's a great shooter, very, very smooth, gets into his jumper very easily, and just a mature scorer, especially for his young age. And he just got better and better as the year went on. He became a walking 20 ball toward the second half of the year, and he really challenged Paolo for the Rookie of the Year. Had Paolo not gotten out of his abysmal February and picked it back up for the remainder of the season, he would have had a legitimate case, and so that's something to look out for. I still think, even as a Magic fan, that J-Dub could end up being the best player out of that draft. You just never know. I think Paolo should be, just given his ceiling and his potential, but I'm very excited to see what J-Dub does, especially on this Thunder team that's looking to blossom. The next guy that I urge you not to forget about is Jabari Smith Jr., another rookie, and he's a guy that I expect to have also a great year. Struggled last year offensively just to get into any rhythm and really figure himself out, but I think these are questions that are going to be answered for him. His impact on defense is undeniable, right? We saw what he can do. He's got all the tools to be a great player, and it is just summer league, but what I saw from Jabari Smith was a much more confident offensive game. And like I said, it's summer league. He's a player that played a full 82 game NBA season. He should be able to cook everybody in summer league, but it's transferable, and I think he's ready. He's due. Let's put it that way. He is due to break out. I think he can be a 17, 18 efficient point per game type of guy. And like I said, he just has no holes in his game. He's a great shooter, lanky and athletic. And I loved Jabari Smith. I didn't do a lot of film on Paolo going out of that draft, but I wanted Orlando to take him or Chet. So when we took Paolo before I figured out he was 6'10", I was like, why didn't we take Jabari Smith or Chet? Now look, I was wrong in that instance, but I still do really like Jabari Smith Jr.'s game, and I think he's somebody that I haven't heard much about in terms of the young players breaking out, and I expect him to really be the best. I think other than he should be the best player on the Rockets either this year or next year. Before I get into my last one, I want to give some honorable mentions. Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, Trey Murphy, Herbert Jones. I think Evan Mobley still has a jump to make, or that he can make. The reason I didn't add him into the non-honorable mentions is because I can't guarantee he will make that jump. I don't necessarily, I don't want to say that, I think he will. I think he can. And I think some people forget that Mobley is just a second-year player. And he's a hell of a player with not a lot of holes and still a developing offensive game and all of the physical attributes. There are also guys like Alperen Sengun, Josh Giddey, Tyrese Maxey, Anthony Simons that also could be considered as flying under the radar, young players that are flying under the radar, but I didn't include any of them because I just don't know how much better any of those guys are going to get. If I were to pick any of those guys to make a jump, it would be Anthony Simons just because Dame left. But I just don't see Giddey or Sengun getting much better than they already are. They're phenomenal young players that they're slept on, people forget about, but I don't see them making massive jumps, if that makes sense. Now, this last one is getting on the brink of not being a young player. In fact, I would consider him just to be entering his prime, but because of the very uncharacteristic start of his career, he still has so much room to grow, and he's really just now coming into his own and showing why he was a former number 1 overall pick, and that is Markelle Fultz. And the main reason why I added Markelle Fultz is because I mentioned how when you talk about underrated young players, Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner of the Orlando Magic come up a lot. But as a Magic fan, I will sit here and confidently tell you that Markelle Fultz was the team's most valuable player last year. And his offensive game, specifically scoring, is really, really, really blossoming and showing why he was the number 1 overall pick. I mean, he is just a very, very, very capable scorer, and he's not high volume. He doesn't take a lot of shots. He's pass first a lot of time. And I just think that, he's a guy that he can average 20 without a doubt. And it's still a, growing confidence thing. I think he just takes great shots and leaves the good ones because he's that good of a playmaker. He wants to be a true point guard for these other wings and scorers that he has on his team and get his young guys going, and that's why he was so important to that team. Is you have to remember, before Markelle Fultz, Orlando went 5-20. They went positive for the rest of the year once he was healthy because of just the true point guard aspect and allowing the other wings to play off the ball, and Markelle can do the dirty work in that aspect. But he's become a terrific defender. He's uber athletic. We already knew he was a phenomenal finisher, and his mid-range has become automatic. And I really mean automatic. That boy do not be missing a lot of mid-range. And so I just think for that reason, he's a guy, especially when you look at the pieces around him and how they are higher volume scorers, he could really get his at any point. And again, he won the Orlando Magic a lot of games last year, and I still think it's hard to say of Wagner, Banchero, and Fultz which one's truly going to break out to be the guy. Obviously you put your money on Banchero. The way that Wagner's looked in the preseason, man, I'm excited. I mean, I've always been excited for Franz, but I'm excited for his third year to maybe make yet another jump. But again, Markelle Fultz was the best player on the team last year. He was the MVP. And again, he's getting up there in age. He's a vet on that team, but I am excited to see what he does in this next year. Really a fully healthy season. Of course, you hope he can stay healthy. And I'm interested to see how much Coach Mosey wants to interpret him in the offense as a scorer. I mean, the ball is going to be in his hands, so I think that's kind of on him to be aggressive. So we'll see. And I also want to reiterate, I know there are people that are quote unquote considered underrated by the general population. I probably should have said this in the beginning of the video, but I wanted to shy away from people that I've been hearing people say are underrated, such as Chet Holmgren, Franz Wagner, and some of those other guys. So if your favorite young player was not added to the list, and you think they're underrated, they probably are, but I was trying to kind of shy away from popular opinion. But let me know who I missed and what you think about these guys that I listed. Peace.